Hello everyone, I am Lolly and I am so excited to start playing with this. So I just got this plate saver. You'll never need new die cutting plates again. No more warped and cut up die cutting plates. And it says compatible with most die cutting machines with a 6-inch wide opening. It does require 2 standard 3mm cutting plates, which are not included. So you get 2 of these plate saver pads in the kit. Now it says you save money by preventing damage to your cutting plates. No need to replace them. Protect your investment, reduces wear and tear on your die cutting machine. Used thousands of times, works with most manual and electric die cutting machines. Also says no more cuts from old projects, paper bits stuck in the cracks or warped plates. So we're going to look at this. We're going to run it through the paces and see what we think. And we're going to start off with a fresh pair of cutting plates because you need to have them with this. So I don't want to taint the investigation by using my old plate. You see, mine aren't that bad, but it's still got a little warp to it. And I will leave you a video underneath this one in which I did and how I've been able to stop this from warping badly. And also we will talk about the magic mat and do a little comparison here. Okay, so let's get started. I want to start off with talking about the price. Now, when I ordered this, I had watched someone's video and she had a 10% discount. That gave me $2.30 off. Shipping was $6.55 for a total of $27.24. I will say that when I ordered this, it took 3 weeks for them to ship the order. I never got any update on the progress of or the status of my order. So I do find that a little off-putting. I have to state that right off the bat. If it's a case where a company doesn't have the inventory to be able to ship these sooner than 3 weeks, I think the consumer needs to be notified. Okay, that said, let's put this through its paces and see what we come up with. Okay, so here's what I did. I took 50 sheets of cardstock and I cut them all on my stack cutter so I could just do it one swipe. These are 90-pound white cardstock from Hobby Lobby, and I am going to start die cutting, and I am going to use all 50 of these and then come back and give you a report. But first, let's do one die cut at least together, shall we? So I have the Sizzix glitter cutting pads. I wanted to start off with brand new because how are we going to determine if this is really, you know, not damaging these unless we start off with new ones? Okay, so let's open this. We already took that off. Okay, user manual. Now, here's what they look like. Okay, they're very thin. You know what? I'm going to get my calipers and I will test these and we'll look and see what's in here. I got 0.81. Depends on where you're measuring. So these are about 0.8. Okay, so these are 0.8mm thickness. And yes, these are at 3mm. And the reason I tested these is because remember the instructions said they worked with any 3mm plates. Now, this came with the little user manual, and it does say, please read through the entirety of this literature before attempting to use the pads. I'm going to do that because even though it seems very simple and very basic and easy to understand, I want to give them the proper test. And so I am going to read through this off camera and come back and then we will play. I do see right here that it says that the pads are made from patent pending flexible heat and pressure treated and coated material to reduce the stress on your cutting plates as they pass through the die cutting machine. Okay, I have read through this. Very interesting points in here and about how to maintain these. Very interesting. It does say to clean them first by either rinsing them or using a lint-free cloth. And then I have my microfiber, so I don't use paper towels. I use these. So you can just wipe them down or run them under the water. Also, I've noticed this photo here, I'm going to fold this over. This sandwich versus this sandwich is slightly different. We've got the platform, shim, and now this one has cutting plate, then the plate saver pad. This one has 3 and 4 reversed, but it does say layers 3 and 4 can switch positions. So it's up to you whether you want to put this under or over on the bottom configuration, but always remember that the die needs to be pointed up. So if you do it this way and you accidentally forget and put the die sharp side down, you are going to mar your pad. Okay, so let's play. And I did notice they gave you some cardstock to play with, or at least some paper, and a sticker that you can put on your brand of your platform. Could go on the bottom, wherever you need it. So as a reminder of how to do the sandwich. So let's pull this out. And they do state in the little booklet that it's possible you could save wear and tear on your actual machine because this lightens the pressure that is being applied to the machine as it's rolling through. So if you get one of these, please do make sure that you read your little booklet first. Okay, I'm going to let these air dry really quickly. And then let's look at the sandwich. So I'm going to try it. I have this Sizzix Big Shot and I have the Spellbinders Platinum 6. I'm going to try this in both. Another thing to ask is, can you cut these down to be used in your miniature machines? That's up to you. But there is an instruction here about what to do about your cutting plates because they need to be identically, you can't use a thick one and a thin one. They both have to be 3 millimeters. So that's something to consider. They don't mention whether you can cut them down. So that's up to you. Let's do it the way this says here. We'll do it without the shim and then later try and see if we need a shim. I'm really doubting that we do. So cutting plate, we're going to put the plate saver pad because I want to protect my cutting plates. I'm going to put that there. Now it says, put the dies point up, sharp side up, and then your cardstock. Well, here's my problem with doing that is you can't really see where you're putting the paper. So one of the ways around this is to put your dies sharp side down on your cardstock like this and tape them and then flip them upside down onto this and finish your sandwich, or you could build your sandwich top down. So if we do that, I hope you're not getting too lost here. We're doing cutting plate, plate saver pad, paper, and now my dies. Okay, I'm going to use the low tack tape, which you can use with this. It does say you can. And this is going to hold these in place, so when I flip this upside down, it will still be, they'll still be lined up. So we've got the paper, the dies. I have to say sharp side down now. Remember the sharp side always against your cardstock. And then we've got the plate saver and the cutting plates. Now let's flip this upside down or right side up because they really stress in the booklet too that they want the dies sharp side up. Okay, let's run that through. Now I'm sorry for the glare, and if this is your first time crafting with me, you will know that I got my glass mat and my overhead lights reflect on it. I did buy better lights for this, but I have to wait until my husband can help me install those. Now here's my concern. This sandwich worked without the 2 plate saver mats in there in the past. Now that I have those, I've added 2 elements to this, and it sure seems like this would be really too thick to go through, and it is. So that's why I thought there's no way a shim is going to work. So let's remove this and see what we get now, because it was clear that it wasn't going to go through. Okay, now I feel like I need maybe a cardstock shim because this feels pretty light, but we're going to check just to make sure. Let's see if we have any progress here. Okay, so I see that I've got good scoring. It's cut in some places, but not totally. I'm going to run that through again, and you can see that this has marks in it. I'm going to run that through again, but I'm going to add a cardstock shim in here. We'll have to play with this and see how to just get the right amount of pressure in there. Now that felt just about right. Let's look at that now. Okay, that looks like it did it. Yes, that's nice and clean. My concern right off the bat is when you have a platform that's not like this, that I can remove some of the pages on it, how is this going to fit through a standard platform that doesn't have that adjustability factor? After one cut, now I ran it through twice, but one cut. Let's see if I can get this. One side, not so much. You can see the lines on there. Now it doesn't feel cut. It feels like it's debossed. Let's look at this one, because one was on the cut side. Okay, here it is. This is the one that was on the cut side. You see the white in there? That's the cardstock that's been pushed into there. Now they do say you can run this underwater and use a soft brush to clean that out. And you are supposed to get them clean before using them again. Otherwise, the paper might be permanently embedded in this. But pretty impressive. And there are instructions on how to maintain these. Now let's look at these. That's just tape right there. There's not the slightest hint of even a scratch. Okay, so I'm going to clean these out and come back. Okay, so I just used a soft old toothbrush that I had rinsed out really well. The paper just fell out of there. It's looking great. You could still see the lines in there, but everything else is looking great. And make sure when you dry these, you also use a lint-free cloth or leave them to air dry. Okay, so now I am going to be running this through over and over again, and I'm going to flip these over, back and forth. You can tell because you've got the name there. Now I can see which way is straight up and not. And I will also be rotating my dies so they're not always cutting in the exact same place. And I'm going to do 50 of these sheets doing it. And I'll also test it on the Spellbinders and see if I can come up with a good sandwich for that. Okay, I have the Spellbinders here. I have their platform, cutting plate, plate saver, paper and die, and the other plate saver and the cutting plate. And this will not even begin to go through. So we have the issue. We've got to figure out what to do besides this, and that's where we're going to have problems. So I think it would be really difficult to come up with another platform for this. So I mean, and it only makes sense that having these two plate savers in there is throwing off the thickness, the overall thickness of this, and I am not going to force this through. And I'm wondering if I might even be able to use this, if it would fit. It does. Let's try this without the shim. And I'm using plates that have already been used because I don't have a choice. Okay, without a shim, this works just fine. Okay, so there we go. That's my second cut. Now I'm going to do 48 more cuts. Okay, I have an update here. So I said I was going to play around and cut through this 50 times, but I decided I'm going to have to abandon that approach, and I'll tell you why. Okay, so I did get through 13 times of cutting. I have this paper here, and what I was doing in my technique was I would change this as the bottom layer, flip it over and change that as the bottom layer. and then I would move the top layer this way and that way. I would rotate them. This would become the bottom, and so forth. You get it. I was really being careful to rotate these as sandwiched between these two cutting plates. So let's look at all of my opinions on this and why I gave up on my quest to go through this 50 times. So after the 13, I mean, it's not enough for me to run this through the machine one time and say, ooh, this was great, you'll like it. I wanted to give it a little more of a test. And so my plates are in pristine condition. There is not a single scratch anywhere on them. Now, plate warping should start later. You know, it would take more use than just these 13 times to see some warping. So obviously I don't see any warping, but these are so pretty right now. I think I'm really happy with how that looks. Okay, now the other thing about it is with these in place, when you're running your die through the machine, there's no cracking noise. You know how you hear that loud crack sometimes in your plate? And also, if you're running a die through and it hits with a straight edge like this, as it hits the rollers, there's this big ba-chung speed bump noise as it crosses over. You don't get that with this. It's like a buffer. So that's also helpful if that really bothers you. So how did these themselves hold up? We talked about the plates. How did these hold up? So I'm going to zoom in here and try to show you. You can see all the scratches here, and that's all I'm going to call them. You can barely tell. I mean, you can see the outlines clearly, but I mean, you can barely feel it. It doesn't, you know, really have a feel that it's been, you know, cut into. Alrighty. So that's definitely a plus. They're holding out well. But here's the thing. They mentioned cleaning these to make sure there was no debris in them before you started off. And one of the positive aspects of these is that you don't get paper bits crammed into or smushed into your cutting plates. Well, that's because the paper bits cram into these. So everywhere there's a cutting line across the top or the cut side facing, when you peel that off, you are going to see the white outline. Now I'm giving you a video here to show you this is actually paper in that little cut line right there. So you need to get that paper out, because if you don't, it will become permanently embedded in this plate saver, which is what they say on the instructions. I have tried using a microfiber cloth after each cut because I need to get it out of there before the next cut. And I've tried scrubbing, I've tried like bending there at that little cut line, and this did not do it. Next, I tried dry brushing. This is a very soft brush it's a facial brush. And I tried scrubbing it out of there, and it didn't work. I tried bending and scrubbing, and it is very tedious, and it takes a good while to really get that paper out of the little crack area. And my best bet by far was taking it to the sink and using a toothbrush that's more firm than this with water and going in the crack and even bending it a little bit. Then I could get that paper dug out, but there are still some areas that I never successfully got that out. It just looks like a white line on your mat, but it's actually paper down in there, and I just can't get them out. I think you could see that better now. These lines right there that really show up are paper embedded into those cut lines. So I'll give it another go round with the toothbrush. So that is why I gave up on doing 50 cuts with this, because after every one of these 13 cuts, I had to run back to the sink, take a toothbrush to it, get that paper out of there, and then I had to dry it off and bring it back to make my other cut. Like I said, it was just becoming too much of a chore. My overall impressions, this was difficult to work with the Spellbinders Platinum 6, because you definitely are adding thickness to your sandwich. There's no way around it. This adds thickness. And so you would need a different platform. So if you have a Sizzix platform, it would work in the Spellbinders, or you've got to come up with your own platform system that you can put through there. It does work with the Sizzix Big Shot. You saw that I had to peel back that first layer of my platform, and then I had to use one sheet of cardstock as a shim. Now, what about comparing this to maybe the Magic Mat? Now, the Magic Mat is a product from scrapbook.com, and it is a self-healing mat. It is basically the same thickness as your cutting plate. Now, my cutting plate is not too badly warped because of what I do. It is definitely all scratched up, but it's not too badly warped based on what I do. And I will give you a video underneath this video. Please, underneath the title, click to see more information, because I'm going to give you the video on how I prevent major warping on my plate. And you can see it works really well. So this is always my base plate. I always put my cardstock down, and I always put my dies cut side down, and then I put this on top, and that is my sandwich. So the Magic Mat takes all of the brunt of the cutting. Now, I have been using this ever since they came out with this, and I really don't know how long that is, but I know I've had it for over a year. Itty bitty bitty tiny bit of warping on it. So I have been turning it over, rotating it, etc. You can see it's well loved, well used. And for me, I think I will be sticking with this Magic Mat. One of my questions about this would it be helpful with intricate dies? Another thing about the paper itself, we talk about the difference between die cutting and digital cutting, like on a Cameo or Cricut or Brother Scan & Cut, is that die cutting tends to have more of a rounded edge because you've got that die pushing the paper down into a cutting mat, cutting plate. But with these, it's an extra layer of cushion that is pushing, the die is pushing down. And so what you have is an even more rounded edge with these die cutting with this than you would if you were using either one of these two methods, just your basic cutting plate or the Magic Mat. So this being slightly more squishy, you get more of a rounded edge, which means it's actually a raised lip on the back. Don't think it's going to cause any problems with adhering that in your project at all. What are my thoughts about whether it's actually worth it? So this would be better for a crafter who doesn't mass produce. So you might use your die cutting machine a lot and have plate warping and want to prevent that, but you don't necessarily use your die cutting machine 10 times in a row on the same day. So, but if someone who does the heavy die cutting or heavy lifting with their die cutting machine, these would be more tedious, I find. I will most likely be sticking with this. I wanted to purchase this. I purchased this myself. They don't know me. I don't know them. It's a great product. I'm impressed with what they put together, really. I give it a thumbs up from that standpoint. It's just not for everybody. That's the issue here. The other thing is there is a way to maintain these if they get warped. And the way to maintain it, you're going to have to make sure that you have no paper lines embedded in there. Once they are totally clean, you're going to sandwich this between 2 layers of plain uncoated cardstock, and you're going to feed them into a heat laminating machine straight, not at an angle, or it will warp these. Feed it through, sandwich between cardstock, and then lay them flat to cool. They must be completely cool before you pick them up and play with them. Just wanted to share this product with you, and so that you, in case you were wondering, what it's like and what my thoughts are. And I thank you for coming along with me in crafting. And I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful day.